This is Close Encounters. Close Encounters. True stories, real people. Close Encounters on Cross Rhythms.
Yes, hello, and welcome to Close Encounters with me, Anne Donaldson. And my guest today is Linda Robinson. Linda, welcome to Close Encounters.
Thank you, Anne. Lovely to be here.
So, Linda lives on the fringes of the Lake District with her husband, Michael.
That's right.
And she's mum to 3 grown-up children and Nanny Poppins to 4 grandchildren.
That's true, yes.
So your family is very loved and very precious, but you didn't have such a good, happy childhood, did you, Linda?
No, I didn't. I was the eldest of 3 children, and I felt often very alone and abandoned and left to my own devices from a very young age. This was because the situation at home was such that my mum had to go out to work in order for us to survive, really.
Yeah.
And and my relationship with my father was virtually non-existent, apart from if I ever did anything wrong. He was then very, very quick to, smack me. And he wasn't a man who ever, that I can remember, he never affirmed me or ever had any close relationship with me. So I was brought up with quite a warped view of men, really.
So that must have affected as you grew up, like you say. What was school like? Were you...
Right, so school, I went to a grammar school, Catholic grammar school for girls, and to be perfectly honest, I absolutely hated it. I have to be honest. And I'm a teacher. I was a teacher myself. So the reason I hated it so much was because it was just, you sat down, you had a textbook and you wrote notes. So there was no imagination, there was nothing engaging, and I found it really, really boring. So when I became a teacher, obviously, I was singing and dancing and doing whatever I could to captivate my pupils.
I think you would have been a very expressive teacher, certainly.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right.
But you clearly did sufficient to be able to gain what you needed to become a teacher. So you clearly did okay.
What happened was, I actually, when I did my O-levels, I failed. I failed miserably. When I look back, God is in control. God is in control of our destinies, and he tells us in his word that he has a plan and a purpose for each one of us, and he's given each one of us different giftings. So I wasn't aware of that at that time, but my giftings were languages. And one time, so I failed, and I went through life actually feeling a failure intellectually, even though I'd been to grammar school.
Right.
And so I strived I was a striver. And I started to study at night school when I was living in Germany. And because I went to Germany to learn German. My desire was always to be, early on in life, an air stewardess.
Okay.
And I actually did that as well. But anyway, so God was preparing me for all the travelling that I was going to be doing later on in life, I'm sure. But anyway, so what happened was I then got to A-level, and at my exam, the person that was testing me in my oral exam, he said afterwards, have you ever considered doing a degree? And for me, that was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
First affirmation I'd ever sort of received on the educational level.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what I did, but I didn't do German. I did European business, admin and languages. But but the interesting thing was, I thought that if I got my first class honours degree and had a brilliant education, that all my inner emptiness would go.
Yeah.
And I did do very, very well, actually. And even won Student of the Year, which is amazing, because I had 2 children. And at that time, I was going through a very painful divorce. But it's really funny because even though, yes, on the day, I was absolutely thrilled with the result. I got a first. But within a few days, that feeling of emptiness returned.
Right.
So that hole was still in me.
Yeah.
And that remained with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your time at home and as you branched out from home, did God feature at all in your life?
Initially, when I was a little girl, it's very interesting. I was baptized a Catholic. When I was a little girl, I used to go to church every morning during Lent. And I always remember there is an area on the altar. Oh, this is quite moving, actually. And I used to look for God.
Oh,
There's a
place.
sacristy.
Yeah.
And I used to look for God in there. And I was like peering as a little girl and looking for God. But I have to say, I never found him there.
No. So we will hear about how and when you found him.
Yeah.
But that's brilliant, Linda.
Yeah.
So you've chosen for your first song a song called "Come to Me."
Yes.
Why have you chosen this song?
This song kept me going through a very, very difficult period in my life.
Okay.
And in it, the words told me that Jesus was all I needed. And although I didn't believe it fully at that time, since I heard this song and it was used to help me, I've come to the knowledge to a much greater level that actually Jesus is all I need. Yes.
Lovely, thank you. You're listening to Close Encounters. I'm Anne Donaldson and my guest today is Linda Robinson. And Linda, as you were sharing before we listened to your song, you referred to a very painful time. Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yes. So when I was in my late 20s, I had my 2 children. They were very near together. I think 16 months between them. And unfortunately, my marriage was failing, and broken people hurt.
Yeah.
Broken people, don't they?
Yeah.
And I'm not apportioning blame at all, but it was a very, very painful situation that I was in, and at that time I was very, very broken. I married for the wrong reasons. I think I married, when I reflect on what I did, I think I was someone who lacked, I hadn't done my degree by then, and I hadn't met Jesus by then. I lacked self-esteem in a great way. And so I married somebody who was very, very clever, a barrister, and that sort of gave me the kudos and the standing that that I was yearning for.
Yeah.
When I was obviously looking for that, the kudos and the standing in the wrong place, and as a result the marriage failed. Shortly after that, however, I've always been a person who is open to listen to other people's views, and yes, I'd been brought up a Catholic, and but I actually personally I didn't meet Jesus on that journey at that time until later. And I just want to say that since then the Catholic faith, there are elements of that faith that have ministered and helped me so much. So I'm so grateful for my Catholic roots.
Yes.
But at that time, obviously, I wasn't walking with God. I had actually no real perception of him, apart from one day things had got really, really bad. And there was a point where my children could have been taken off from me.
Yeah.
And I'd had to go and see a social worker. Anyway, the interview went very well. The social worker knew that I was a suitable mother. But I came out of that meeting and I just had this thought, I need to get in a church. I need to get in a church.
Wow.
That just came to me. I need to go and sit in a church. And so I found a church and I just sat there quietly. I think I just absorbed the peace of the place. And then I got up and I did feel a lot better. But then shortly after that, someone knocked on my door. It was a Jehovah's Witness, actually. And they began to talk to me about hell. And I gave the old arguments, well, I haven't done anybody any harm and I've not murdered, I've not done all that, and I've been fair and all of this. And she just said, well, she explained to me that wasn't the reason why I would not be going to hell. And then anyway, she left. And at that time, I had met my husband of 34 years. And so our relationship was pretty new because I was coming out of the divorce. And I remember him saying to me not to go down that path.
Yeah.
He said to me, if you are looking for God or interested, he said, go to the Anglican church at the end of the road.
Yeah.
And it was really strange because I had like a pull and I went there. And although the vicar wasn't what I would call passionate for Jesus or inspiring, he was a very, very beautiful man who was very peaceful. And his message, I sat there and it was like his message was talking to me.
Yes.
So, and that often happens, doesn't
Yes.
it? That God speaks through people and talks to you directly. And then from that moment on, I was just hooked on finding more about Jesus. I needed to find out more about Jesus. And so I began to go to church every Sunday. Then I went on a course. I didn't even understand at that point what salvation and the blood. I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah.
That came a lot later.
It's the simple faith, isn't it?
It was just, there is something here.
Yeah. And it's taking that first step.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and believe you me, when I took that first step, it wasn't a step, it was a dive.
Okay.
Honestly, it was, because I just felt so alive and so happy that I had somebody who actually loved me, really loved me. It was wonderful.
Wow.
It was wonderful.
That's a very appropriate time for us to listen to your next song. So thank you for that, Linda. Thank you. Yes, this is Close Encounters with me, Anne Donaldson, and my guest today is Linda Robinson. And Linda, we smiled when you referred to diving into your newfound faith. Can you just explain that a little bit?
I will indeed, yes. So by that, what I meant was I was fully in.
Yeah.
I didn't have 1 foot out and 1 foot in. I was fully in with my eyes fixed on Jesus, and I wanted to follow him. I wanted to hand over my life completely. What I knew was my life. I wanted to give it to him.
Yes.
Completely. And embrace what I had embrace my faith fully. I didn't want to be half-hearted.
No.
fully
Yeah.
committed.
Yeah.
Wholehearted is the
Yeah.
word
Yeah.
to following him. And the other thing I just feel to mention before the next question is just to say that, you know, the Bible says that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Mm-hmm. And when we read the Bible, you know, we read about people hearing from God. Mm-hmm. And we still hear from God.
Yes.
And he speaks to all of us in different ways. Mm-hmm. So before I start to tell you more of my story, because I do have that closeness with God where, although I don't hear what he is saying in a loud verbal way,
Yes.
he communicates with me with a voice that is silent. I don't hear it as such, but it is absolutely his voice.
Yeah.
And it's like having you speak to me, but you're on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because God does, as you say, speak to us today.
Yes.
And I would imagine very soon after diving in, fully embracing this new faith
Yeah.
and putting your trust in Jesus and all he promises and all that he's done for us, you started to sense God speaking to you
Yes.
in a way you understood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful. I also want to say, because it's the truth, that when I did commit fully to God, it wasn't always easy because God has a plan for each of our lives, and he has good works that we are to do. Each one of us who decides to follow him, he has a plan. And one of his plans for me was bringing knowledge of him into school where I was teaching. And if I can just give you a little bit of testimony there. One day he said to me, when I was praying, he said to me and confirmed it through several other people, that he wanted me to talk about the existence of hell to the young people. And I was absolutely terrified of doing that. But what happened, there was a man, and there is a testimony that people can still see online about a New Zealand guy who was stung by a jellyfish. His name's Ian McCormack. His testimony is amazing. And what happened is he actually visited hell. And the Lord said to me, I want you to show those young people this video.
Ah.
Right. Now, I showed the young people this video, and the backlash I got from the staff room, I had people walk out of the staff room, but I had some of the pupils come up to me and shake my hand and say, thank you, miss. We want to connect with God for ourselves now. And they were so, but it was very difficult for me because I was very, very unpopular with some members of the staff.
Yeah.
So the path that we're asked to walk on with Jesus, I can't say it's all happy, because it certainly isn't. It can be very, very tough. But all I can say is he's worth it. And out of every bad situation, if we approach it in the right way, he brings something beautiful. And it was just music to my ears that young people came to me wanting to know about Jesus.
Yes, yeah, that's so true. And your husband Michael would have noticed the change in you after you dived in. What impact did that have on Michael?
Well, actually, Michael became a Christian 6 weeks after me.
Right.
And if I can just say, at that time, because we'd had failed marriages, we were living together, and the vicar came around, and he sat us down and he explained to us that that was no longer acceptable, because we were to follow now what God says about marriage, and God wanted us to get married, and we were to be a properly married couple, and so we looked at each other and we thought, well, we've decided to follow Jesus, and if that's what Jesus says, and Jesus says, let marriage be honoured, and that we are not to have relationships, physical relationships outside of marriage. And so can I also say, however, that God never made us feel condemned. He never brought shame on us. It was absolutely beautiful. God waited until we were ready, and then he sent the vicar to tell us, and we got married.
That's beautiful. Yes. During that time, throughout your marriage, there were times when it got tough.
It got very tough, because I dived in, and I was. According to my husband, I was a little bit too full on for him, and when I look back, I can see that I was lacking in my enthusiasm to follow. I was lacking in compassion and understanding for where he was at. Okay. I think it's a good time for us to pause, and we'll hear more, I'm sure, but we're going to listen to your next choice of song, and it's William McDowell, I Give Myself Away. Welcome back to Close Encounters with me, Anne Donaldson. My guest today is Linda Robinson. And Linda, the song we've just been listening to was very, very meaningful for you. Yes, it was. Back in 2011, I was in my kitchen, and I suddenly felt a heavy presence. And and I heard that still small voice that I told you about before, and the Lord said to me, would I be willing to put my marriage on the altar? Now, my marriage at that stage was not in a good place, in the sense that instead of dealing with problems, dealing with issues, what we tended to do at that time was to just brush them under the carpet and just carry on. And because we were Christians as well, we just thought, well, I thought, well, that's what we have to do. We have to just keep walking in forgiveness. But really, when issues arise in relationships, they have to be sorted, and we have to be brave enough to confront them and sort them. And this was a big mistake that my husband and I also made. We did not sort out our issues. So I felt the Lord say, would you put your marriage on the altar? And I can honestly say I was frightened. I was terrified. I felt sick, because then I saw a picture just flash across my mind, and there I was standing at a doorway, completely alone, with a suitcase in my hand. And the other thing I want to mention here is that day I had a very, very mature Christian coming for lunch, and she said to me, she said, Linda, she said, if this is God's will, she said, he will do it. You don't need to do anything. And that is exactly what happened. From that moment of me saying yes to God, because as I said, I'd given myself away to him. I had to go on this journey. I just felt, although I was terrified, I knew that life without Jesus would be even more terrifying for me. So I said yes. And then what happened, we began to slowly, through circumstances, there began to come a separation between us emotionally, and I was often doing things alone, and he started doing more things alone. There wasn't that love, that unity, and that trust that a marriage should be based on.
Yeah.
And eventually my husband turned around, and it was very interesting. He turned around and he said, "I'm leaving, but I just want to bring in this point, if I may." It was my birthday, which is in June. On June the 16th, 2013, my husband was being interviewed at church, and the pastor said, "What is the most important decision you ever made?" And he said, "The most important decision I've ever made, or the best decision I've ever made in my life, was to marry Linda." And I'm sat there, my mouth dropped open. It was my birthday. And I'm thinking, oh my word. But 6 weeks later, he said he was leaving. And he left. He left me. And but those words, they hit my heart. And for the next 3 years, I embarked on a journey of going on a very close and intimate journey with Jesus, where I literally I had to depend on him for everything. But he proved himself time and time again faithful. So, for example, I know this might sound very strange, but I said to him, because the Bible says that when we come into relationship with God, one of the types of relationship that he is to us is that of a husband.
Yeah.
He's there as a father,
Yeah.
but he's also there as a husband. And I used to talk to him and say, "You're my husband now. I have no one else. And I need my grass cutting." I know that's a little thing.
That was brilliant.
And he would speak to somebody, and the mower guy would come and mow the lawn.
Yeah.
It was absolutely, I am not exaggerating.
I know.
He looked after me. There is a saying, and we say, he looks after me like an egg in a cake. And God looked after me so well. During those 3 years, I really got to know him as a covenant keeping God. And to those that don't know what covenant means, who may be listening, covenant is it's an agreement between two people that is made that cannot be broken. It can only be broken upon death. And that is a relationship that God has with his people, to love them no matter what may happen. And he proved that to me in those 3 years before he brought my husband back. And can I just say that during my 3 years, I had so many voices telling me he's never coming back. He actually said, "I'm never going back." But as I read the Bible, there were certain words that I read, the promises that were in the Bible for me individually. They jump out. And one of the words was, God acts on behalf of those who wait for him. And I had hope, and I had trust, and I had faith that one day God was going to bring my husband back. And sure enough, 3 years down the line, on my birthday, oh wow, God spoke to me, and he said, "I want you now to invite your husband for a meal." And I said, "But I've asked him lots of times to come for a meal with me, and he won't." And God said, "It is time."
Wow.
And so I invited Michael, and he came for a meal, and I said to him, "But what can I say, God? What can I say as an excuse for inviting him?" And my birthday always falls near to Father's Day. And God said, "Say you want to thank him for being such a wonderful father to the 3 children."
How beautiful.
Yes, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And from that day, the restoration began. For me, what was so interesting was during those 3 years, I never stopped loving my husband.
Yes, lovely.
Because God gave me his heart of love for Michael, because he's a covenant-keeping God.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
Wow. And
painful.
that's and that's a beautiful story of the restoration of a marriage. Powerful.
Absolutely.
We'll listen to your next choice of song, which is "No One Ever Cares for Me Like Jesus."
Yes.
You're listening to Close Encounters with me, Anne Donaldson, and my guest today is Linda Robinson. Linda, we've only had a tip of the iceberg of your story, I know that.
Yes.
But out of what you've shared today, what would you want the listener to take away?
So what I really want the listener to take away is the fact that the love of God for each and every one of us is beyond our wildest dreams. Mm-hmm. It's beyond all comprehension, and it truly does endure forever. And the other thing I want to people to take from this is he is the one who transforms us as we just behold him. And so I want to encourage people to give God time, to give God the time that he needs to make us into the best of who we're supposed to be. And I'm just going to give an example. I'm just an ordinary woman. I have no title at all. But I have an extraordinary God who decided one day that he was going to use me to start a goat project in Uganda, Africa. And he did this. And the story, I don't have time to tell the whole story of how it came about now. But after several years, I handed it over to an African pastor who's run with it, done far more with it than what I did. I was just the facilitator, the initiator, under God's guidance. And now that project is helping thousands of women come out of poverty. And just recently, I've just returned. I thought my ministry in Uganda was finished. Recently, I've just been over and opened an orphanage, a small orphanage, and a house for widows. Again, God provided everything we needed, and he's not interested in whether you've got a theological degree or anything like that. He just wants people who are available to be used by him. And that's really what I want to encourage people with. And, just also to say that when I was in Rwanda, God used a person out there, a woman who was completely broken. She had a disabled daughter, and we gave her a foot up with a goat. Then we helped her with chickens. And then she came back and she was such an entrepreneur, but she would never have had the ability to do what she is doing now. She's opened a creche. She's got an art centre. We've helped her financially, but that is all we've done. And she, under God's guidance, has built a village that the government of Rwanda are even interested in looking at.
Wow.
She has become a beacon in her community. And I just think that if we are willing to help people and give of our time and our resources, God can do immeasurably more than we could ever imagine.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It is that love of God flowing through us, that as we are, as you say, available and obedient,
Exactly.
there's no limit to what he can do. And
Exactly.
And it's a fun adventure too, isn't it?
It's a great adventure.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Linda, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for coming
been a
to the
pleasure.
studio today. Thank you for sharing some of your story.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's been a great blessing to us. I'm sure it will to many people.
I hope so. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Close Encounters on Cross Rhythms. True stories, real people.